It's another night on the run for the prime suspect, and so far as we know, the only suspect in the murder of those 3 young sisters in Washington state. If you've been following our coverage, you know that Travis Decker picked up his daughters last Friday for a scheduled custodial visit, but the bodies of those 3 little girls, his 3 little girls, were found on Monday near a campground 40 miles away. Court documents say 9-year-old Peyton Decker, 8-year-old Evelyn Decker, and 5-year-old Olivia Decker had each been asphyxiated with plastic bags that were still over their heads when they were found. Their wrists had been zip-tied. Their father's truck, which was found nearby, had 2 bloody handprints on it. And last night on this show, the sheriff leading the manhunt confirmed that those were adult handprints. Today, police put out a photo of Travis Decker from when he was active duty in the military. Reports indicate he was a U.S. Army Ranger, a paratrooper who served in Afghanistan and is highly trained in wilderness evasion and survival. The Army picture shows how different he might look now if he maybe were shaved. Certainly shows the tattoos that you can look for if you're out looking to spot him. Decker is said to be suffering from complex PTSD and borderline personality disorder. He was married to the little girl's mother, Whitney Decker, for 7 years, and their divorce reportedly was civil. Whitney never fought visitation privileges, but when Travis lost his home and various minimum wage jobs after he left the girls crying unattended at a National Guard armory, he was barred from taking them on overnights. Despite all of that, Whitney says Travis isn't the only one responsible for their daughters' deaths. She says, quote, "The system deserves some of the blame too, because police sent out an endangered missing persons advisory instead of an Amber Alert." Whitney Decker's attorney says, and I quote, "We may never know if it could have meant the difference between life and death for those girls, but it could have made a huge difference." Whitney believes, as I do, that something broke inside of him. Everything that he had been living with, everything that had been bottled up inside of him for so long, as far as trauma, just won out, end quote. I want to bring in Bobby Chacon. He is a retired FBI special agent with extensive background in high-risk search and arrests. He was part of the manhunt for the Olympic Park bomber, Eric Rudolph, in the mountains of North Carolina. Boy, that went on forever as well. We thought we'd never find him, and he had some survival skills too, Bobby. First, let me ask you, what are the odds this guy's alive, especially given the heinous and atrocious act that happened to his daughters?
Well, I think the odds are pretty good that he's alive for the time being. I don't know how long that will last. He's probably, I'm certainly not an expert in his mental health conditions, but he's probably still on some kind of a rush of what happened. If he does come in a moment of clarity, he might take his own life, or he might decide to try to do it as a suicide by cop or something like that. But my thoughts are he's probably still out there. It all depends on how much planning he put into this. And I'm sure that the investigation is focused on part of that, is focused on part of it, is how much planning he put into this.
Well, I think of having enough baggies for 3 little girls' heads and zip ties and something obviously to secure the baggies around their heads. And that sounds like planning to me. We don't just all drive around with that kind of material in our truck, especially if we're homeless.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of it is, did he have time to go out and stash food resources like Rudolph did in our search? His father had said he had been in those mountains at times off the grid for months at a time. So did he plan on being there this time and putting food away and things like that? So that's going to be part of it. I think the biggest advantage he had right now is a head start. He was due to have those children back to the mother at, I think, 8 o'clock on Friday night. And by 9, she notified the authorities. But they didn't put out an alert until, the next day. For some reason, he did not meet the criteria for an Amber Alert, according to the state police. The local police did want to put out that Amber Alert, I think. And the state police who control those boards on the highways said he didn't meet the criteria. And so they were a little delayed in putting out that Amber Alert, and we now know that his license plate was seen on a highway plate reader leaving town at some point on Saturday, I believe. So we don't know what happened between, Friday when he was supposed to bring those girls home and really Monday when those girls' bodies were found midday.
Bobby, do you think being homeless is an advantage here or a disadvantage? Because on one hand, he's homeless. He doesn't have a whole lot of money to get the supplies that you're talking about to stash in the woods and be prepared for 3 months off the grid. But being homeless certainly does let us know that he knows how to live rough.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it is an advantage, I think, in this particular case, because people are if he's very used to living in an uncomfortable environment, for us, it would be uncomfortable, but for him, it's not. And they're also used to scavenging for food and in ways of getting a hold of things to eat. Homeless people are, adept at that. That's how they stay alive oftentimes. And so I think in this particular case, at least in the short term, it's an advantage for him.
What do you think police are doing right now?
I think they're doing a couple of things, many things at one time. I think they're interviewing family, friends, people that he may have sought assistance from. They're doing the obvious, which is like land searches. Sometimes the only thing you can do is get feet on the ground, boots on the ground in those mountains, which are rugged. Some places you can't even use drones because the forest canopy is so thick that the drones can't even look through the forest canopy. So if you pick those kind of areas that Rudolph did way back when, you can't even use the technology that sometimes you can deploy. So really boots on the ground, doing grid searches, starting from, where he was, where the kids' bodies were found. Conceivably, he didn't have a vehicle after that. They found his vehicle. So he's on foot from that point. So you calculate how many miles a day he might be able to travel, and then you draw a map and you draw concentric circles, and you put teams, if you can, you try to put as many resources, and this is a very labor-intensive effort. So while some teams are looking at his background, his family connections, his friends connections, other people are just on the ground searching those woods.
Well, Bobby, let's hope at some point they catch this guy, because I think that Mom and the rest of us deserve justice. Thanks so much for being on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.